All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go from Michigan. Andy Kirchenbauer and Tyler Ott have the front row. Clay Kirchenbauer, Patrick Pieper on the second row. Ryan McDaniel, William Mann Jr. on the third row. Mark Dantuma, Andy Wilkinson have the fourth. Richard Craig and Austin Ruskoff on the fifth row. Larry Waite starting in 11th. Next to Brian Hewitt in 12th. The yellow numbers, the Gen 6 Cup car. The blue numbers are, of course, the trucks. And once again, they have them separated by class. But as we mentioned during practice, I have a feeling these trucks are going to be coming through the field kind of quickly. Team Kirchenbauer starts on the inside of the front two rows with the kid up front and the dad right behind. It's been a very long time since we've seen father versus son out here in the Kirchenbauer household. It's only the second time it's ever happened. But apparently it will be a weekly thing going forward. So now we get to find out who's the faster Kirchenbauer. Once again this week, the fuel window's different for both cars. The Cup cars can go about 30 laps, whereas the trucks are around 28 laps on a tank of fuel. Cautions will shake that up a bit. All right, here we go. Pace car dives in. And the green flag flies. We are down and away at Michigan with Multiclass Racing. I have a feeling, much like last week when the ARCA cars took the Gen 6 cars on, I have a feeling it'll take the trucks a lap or two to get up to speed. But once they get there, I have a feeling they're going to march their way through this field to the front. Andy Kirchenbauer out front. Clay is already slipped back. The kid let him go. Patrick Pieper, Tyler Ott battling for second and third. Mark Dantuma leads the trucks, followed by Andy Wilkinson, Austin Ruskoff, Richard Cragen. Interesting, the field is starting to split just a little bit. The trucks are losing ground to the Cup cars. They gain a lot of ground in the turns, but lose a lot on the straights. Dantuma's going to have to find a way to stay in Ryan's draft if he has any hope of making his way up through the field. Tyler Ott has the fastest lap so far in second place. Indy had broken away for a short time, but Tyler has run him down. Patrick Pieper still holds on to third. Clay Kirchenbauer in fourth. And don't look now. The trucks are starting to move as Mark Dantuma goes to the high side on Ryan McDaniel into turn one. Andy Wilkinson now closing in on Ryan as well, as Dan Tuma closes in on William Mann Jr. Man, Dan Tuma has a bit of a run as the top three begin to battle. Patrick Pieper now takes second. Ryan McDaniel losing a lot of ground here in the early going. He slipped back to ninth. Meanwhile, Mark Dantuma closing up on William Mann Jr. He's about to move forward. Man, that is a big run into turn 3 for the truck. Now, can he maintain that momentum? No, the Cup car pulls back ahead. This is going to be a back and forth cat and mouse game between the trucks and the cars tonight. I have a feeling if the trucks lose too much of the draft, they're going to lose it all. Brian Hewitt back behind, battling with Larry Waits. Austin Ruskoff right on Ryan's bumper, looking under as Cragen now up into 8th. Blake Kirchenbauer now has a bumper full of William Mann Jr., the top 6 altogether, as Pieper is making the move for the lead. Down the back straightaway, Indy pulls back ahead for the moment, but Patrick right there on him. Ott's going to try and make a move to the high side, but he kisses the wall. Man, that's going to cost Tyler Ott some ground as Dan Tuma on the bottom, 3 wide. While the top 2 continue to battle it out, the group behind is getting closer, and Pieper to the lead. Mark Dantuma up into the mix. Andy Wilkinson, Richard Cragen, and Austin Ruskoff have caught back up. 3 wide through 1 and 2 again. Dantuma way down low. Those trucks just have so much more downforce. They can take the turns almost flat out. Now Andy Wilkinson up top. He is moving forward. Tyler gets very close to the wall again. Oh, things are getting tight coming out of turn 4. William Mann Jr. now looks like he is bump drafting Dan Tuma down the front stretch. Mark Dantuma now to 4th as we got the 3-car battle throw. Believe that was Tyler Ott that just took a big hit off the outside wall. Andy Kirchenbauer on the bottom, Clay up top. Here comes Dantuma. Pieper still has the lead. And most of this field is tightened back up, the top 9, all within a second of each other. I think we're about to get a real good look at which car is better on the long run. That Gen 6 Cup car is fast down the straightaway, but in the turn, those trucks are flying up through here. And as the tires wear, the additional downforce of the trucks is really going to pay off. As Dan Tuma makes his way into second and Ruskov now up to sixth. Whoa, it gets tight for the lead. I think Dan Tuma kissed the wall. He is slipping back. All right, take a look at Mark Dan Tuma up top. Little bit loose, bounces off Pieper just a little bit. Gets that outside wall and lost a ton of ground. And now the caution flies. Multiple vehicles involved. Looks like Tyler Ott, William Mann Jr., Brian Hewitt, Ryan McDaniel, Richard Craig, and Andy Wilkinson all involved, as well as Larry Waits. Let's take a look. Whoa! Clay was wicked loose. Take another look at this one. Clay Kirchenbauer in the 23 down to the inside. Indy up on the high side in the 100 as they come out of 3 and 4. Everything looks fine. They come down the front stretch. Indy drops low. Clay goes high. Oh, Austin gets into William, trying to avoid the car ahead. It sends Clay around. Clay gets William. William comes up and gets everybody else. A big old domino effect in turn one. And body panels were flying everywhere. William Mann Jr. ended up having to tow it in. He took some hard hits. And it looks like everybody's going to come in and get fuel. Everybody right there about the halfway point of their fuel runs. How many drivers are going to take tires here tonight, though? That's the big question. A lot of these guys will need some repairs. Looks like a lot of tires going on. Now, as we saw, the trucks have to patiently work their way to the front on the long run. However, maybe not this time. Mark Dan Tuma comes out in second. Brian Hewitt in third. Patrick Pieper wins the race off pit road. Interestingly, it does appear Brian Hewitt took right sides only. And when they stack up this time, it's going to be mixed throughout the field. Patrick Pieper in the Gen 6, followed by two trucks, a Gen 6, a truck, a Gen 6, a truck, a Gen 6, the rest of the way through the field. That is, unless Austin Ruskov ducks in to top off on fuel again, which of course he does. Lights are out on the pace car. Patrick Pieper in control of the restart with Mark Dantuma on the high side. Boy, this is an interesting mashup. Oh, Pieper's going to choose the high line for the restart. And you know what? We're going to choose to get a little bit loud on the restart and see what a combination of Gen 6 cars and the trucks sound like when we crank it up. Now when the pace car drops in, I'm going to shut up, let you guys crank it up and listen to all the power. All right, here we go. The pace car dives in. And here they come into the zone. The green flag flies. Crank it up, y'all. They almost knocked the camera off the wall. Patrick Pieper still holds the lead. Looked like William Mann Jr. may have lost the pack. Remember, he did have to tow it in, so he is not on the lead lap. He has got some work to do. For the moment, it's Gen 6 cars in 1, 2, and 3. Mark Dantuma slipping back into 4th, but as we saw earlier, as the tires start to wear, the trucks start to move forward. Ryan McDaniel has moved back up into 6th. Andy Wilkinson back to 7th. Richard Cragen now in 8th. Brian Hewitt in 9th. Larry Waits in 10th. Austin Ruskoff in 11th. As they're going to go for a 3-wide battle here, and Hewitt's going to lose 2 spots at once. And Andy Kirchenbauer trying to reclaim the lead from Patrick Pieper. Indy to the high side, Pieper to the bottom, into 1 and 2. He has a little bit of an advantage coming out of turn 2 down the backstretch. Oh, almost had some contact there. Pieper trying to get that side draft off into turn 3. Wow, that was some gutsy moves. And now Clay has a big run, but couldn't quite close up to help Indy out into turn 1. But Indy has the speed coming out of turn 2, reclaiming the lead. Now Dantuma looks to the bottom as he goes for 3rd, and Ryan back into the top 5. Tuma's still in fourth in the truck. Whoa, it gets close. Ryan got a big run out of turn 2. Looks to the inside on Dan Tuma. Hey, good evening, Tina. How are you? Now it is Gen 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. But as we mentioned, if this thing stays green, we're likely to see the truck start advancing here in a few laps once the Gen 6 car's tire wear becomes a problem. Hey, good evening, Jason. How are you? Doing okay, Tina? Andy Kirchenbauer still out front, but Pieper is right there with him. Whoa, the truck's getting a little loose out of turn 2. Looked like Andy got a little squirrely out of turn 2 and he peeked underneath Ryan, couldn't get there. Ryan holds on to 5th for the moment as Dan Tuma's back to 2nd. Does seem like the trucks can hang with the Gen 6 car in the draft. And in the turn, the truck is the vehicle to beat. And Dan Tuma about to show him how it's done through 1 and 2. Will he be able to clear? He does. Indy finds an opening up top. He's going to try and fight back into 3 and 4. Jason, it's working for me. Well, Dan Tuma in the truck to the lead, and now Andy Kirchenbauer, Patrick Pieper battling, but here comes Andy Wilkinson and Richard Craggy. The Gen 6 cars already starting to fade as the trucks come forward. Austin Ruskoff, Larry Waits not far behind. And it does seem like those Gen 6 cars just use the tires so much more than the trucks do. The trucks have so much more downforce going through the turns. And look at the run by Craggan up top. Holy cow. Craggan now to 2nd. That truck just monsters past the Gen 6 cars through the turn. Meanwhile, Mark Dan Tuma has pulled away. Watching during practice, it was crazy to see the disparity between the cars. The Gen 6 cars are faster on fresh tires, but after a while, the trucks just march through the field and go on by. Andy Wilkinson, Austin Ruskoff, they're closing in on that group of Gen 6s. Larry Waits also closing back up, bringing Ryan McDaniel with him. Meanwhile, Dan Tuma opening up a 1 1/4 second lead over Craggan at the moment. You know, back in the early days of HTSAI, we did have a league that ran 3 different cars, Cup, Xfinity, and Truck. And depending on the track would definitely, who won the track would depend on the track. All three cars had advantages at different tracks. Seeing that play out again here tonight with the trucks on the long run being the fastest way around. And Mark Dantuma at the moment being the fastest truck on track. 1.4 second lead over Cragen. Whoa! Andy got a little squirrely out of turn 2 that time. Holds on to it. Now's a big run under Pieper. Here comes Ruskoff right behind. Pieper does have the straight line speed advantage. Surprised he not bumping Andy down the front stretch. Richard Cragen is starting to pull away a little bit from Indy Kirchenbauer and Clay Kirchenbauer. And yes, it is a little bit weird. Indy's running Clay's old paint scheme, but the number 100, Clay running a new paint scheme with his number 23. Yeah, no, that's not confusing for the broadcaster at all. But they do have 2 rigs in the house now, so we will see more father versus son battles going into 2026. Clay Kirchenbauer, we know he knows how to save tires. It appears to be paying off. He is caught back up to Cragen. For the moment, Andy Wilkinson now up in a 4th. Austin Ruskoff right there with the group. Larry Waits has lost the lead pack, as has Ryan McDaniel, Tyler Ott, Brian Hewitt. And after that catastrophic incident earlier, William Mann Jr. a couple laps down. Now, everybody was in a lap 14 to top off on fuel, most taking tires. Remember, both cars do have different fuel windows. The trucks can only go 28, 29 laps on a tank of fuel. The Cup car's looking at 30 to 31. If this thing stays green, will that make a difference? And if so, just how big of a difference will it make? Clay Kirchenbauer now back up into second, 2.2 seconds behind the leader. Good evening, Gerald. No, they're not. We're just talking about that. The trucks, 28 to 29 laps on a tank of fuel. The Cup cars, 30 to 31. And man, once the tires wear, these vehicles are pretty even. We see points throughout the run where the Cup car is faster, points where the truck is faster. But man, it does seem after about 20 laps, they are definitely very equal. This may very well come down to green flag stops. Larry Waits is in. Larry had lost that lead draft, so coming in and getting fresh tires now could pay off. Meanwhile, Mark Dantuma holds on to that 2.4 second lead over Cragen. Gerald, looking at pit stop times, it looks pretty equal between both vehicles. 4 tires and fuel looks like about 14.7 to 15.5 for both vehicles. Mark just out for a Wednesday evening cruise as he continues to extend his lead. Austin Ruskoff now up into the top 3. This will be his first time up there tonight. Patrick Pieper right below him, not going to give it up easily. And surprisingly, Indy Kirchenbauer has slipped back to 7th. And Austin just sends it a little too deep, had to pull up Pieper right to his bumper. I think Austin sent it a little too deep into turn 3, started to push up, had to roll out of it. Austin was up there battling for second. Again, if this thing stays green, these guys likely to start coming in the next 3 to 4 laps. Remember, on fresh tires, the Cup car seems to be the faster car. Trucks on the long run. From Cragen back to Indy is 0.8 of a second as these guys just continue to battle. Cragen may be able to pull away a little bit. They're 3 wide. Austin Ruskoff working his way back into the top 3. Don't forget Andy Wilkinson also lurking back there. Andy, we saw earlier one of the biggest runs we have seen all night long. Coming out of turn 2 and shooting by several cars. His race far from over as well, as Austin now takes 3rd, sets his sights on Richard Cragen in 2nd. And whoa, Andy is in. Andy Wilkinson, the first truck in. Now the question is, will Dan Tuma come in? They will need one more stop after this. Strategy could be huge here. You get everything right here, you might be able to stretch it. And if it stays green, just come in for a splash of gas. Dan Tuma continues to stay out. Cragen's coming in. Ruskoff now to second. Looks like Brian Hewitt's going to stay out. Ryan McDaniel also staying out. Andy Wilkinson on his way back out. Larry Waits is back out. And here we go. Mark Dantuma, the leader, is in. Austin Ruskoff topped off on that last caution, so he can go another lap or two, as can the Gen 6 Cup cars. Brian Hewitt is in. Hewitt's got the wall. Richard Cragen on his way back out. Andy Wilkinson, though, he is fighting to get himself back onto the lead lap, and he has. He also Cragging it back on the lead lap. Clay Kirchenbauer, the first Gen 6 car in. Austin still has the lead, but drivers starting to come by and get their lead lap. To get back to the lead lap, Patrick Pieper is going to reclaim the lead. Does look like Austin is coming in. Patrick Pieper back into the lead. Andy Kirchenbauer in second. Now we'll get an idea how much further these Cup cars can go. Surprisingly, Pieper has not short pitted yet tonight. We saw him through a large portion of 2025 using short pit strategies. To some success, but some failures as well. Does not look like he's going to try and use it here tonight. Brian Hewitt did pick up a black flag due to his pit road entry. Andy Wilkinson, Richard Craig, and Mark Dantuma, all three right there together. The current top four, Patrick Pieper, Andy Kirchenbauer, Tyler Ott, Ryan McDaniel, they have not been to pit road yet. And now it's a question of how much longer, and it's going to be about that long for Pieper. Indy's bringing it in as well. Tyler Ott on his way in. Will Ryan come in this time or stretch it further? Ryan's going to go that extra lap here. Ryan McDaniel will take the lead for the first time tonight. As the trucks battle it out back behind. Be interesting to see where the trucks are in relation to the Cup cars as everybody completes their pit stops. And Ryan McDaniel is on pit road. Andy Wilkinson may lead for the first time tonight at the line. He does, with a big push from Cragen, moving Dantuma to third. Dan Tuma with the big run down on the bottom. He is going to reclaim the lead. Clay Kirchenbauer back in. Oh, hold on to her, Clay. Clay now up into fourth, but 5 seconds behind Cragen. The trucks may end up dominating here tonight. And we'll still have to make at minimum a splash and go stop. Mark Dantuma back out front, followed by Cragen and Wilkinson as they continue to battle for second. Austin Ruskoff ended up a lap down after that stop. He has lost a lot of ground. He is in position, though, if he can get past Dantuma to reclaim the lead lap. Patrick Pieper currently 6.3 seconds behind the truck of Andy Wilkinson. As of right now, it does appear the truck's faster than the Gen 6 car. Still quite a few laps left to go, and anything could happen, like Cragen going way too high into turn 3. Cragen gives the wall a little bit of a kiss, but holds on to it. Mark out front with half a second over Andy Wilkinson. Cragen in third. Pieper alone back in fourth. Clay Kirchenbauer in fifth. Larry Waits in sixth. Tyler Ott in seventh. Andy Kirchenbauer slipped back to eighth. Ryan McDaniel holding on to ninth. Austin Ruskoff in 10th. Brian Hewitt in 11th. William Mann Jr. in 12th. The exit to turn 2 has been a bit wild here tonight. Yet somehow everybody has managed to hold on. I will say, earlier in the night, Indy and Clay were practicing together, and Indy was giving Clay some tips. Clay's probably up there laughing right now, thinking, these kids today. Has Clay now 22.8 seconds ahead of his son, Indy. "25 laps to go, one more pit stop to go." Mark Dantuma has a 1.5 second lead. Patrick Pieper, the fastest Cup car right now, has a 3-second gap on Clay. Tyler Ott, currently 5 seconds behind Clay, but is gaining ground. Larry Waits back in 7th, Indy in 8th. Last time by, Indy was the fastest car on track. But it does seem being in the truck and managing the tires has been the trick here tonight. Mark Dantum and the other trucks march through the field fairly early. And once the trucks get to the front, they just don't look back. Gerald, I don't know. It's going to be close. Ryan McDaniel likely to be the closest to make it on fuel. Andy Kirchenbauer has a slight chance, as does Tyler Ott. It's going to be close for several of the Cup cars. And it gets a little bit tricky late in this race. So Patrick Pieper, Tyler Ott, and Andy Kirchenbauer all stopped on lap 48. Ryan McDaniel stopped on lap 49. William Mann Jr. is on pit road right now. It appears he had a problem a moment ago. The fuel strategy definitely going to be interesting here in the final 20 laps. Cragen now 2 1/4 seconds behind Dan Tuma, but he has pulled a 1.2 second gap on Andy Wilkinson. Patrick Pieper about 2.3 seconds behind Andy. At the moment, Pieper is actually gaining a little bit of ground on the 3 trucks ahead. Larry Waits is in. Larry Waits heads to pit road for his final stop. Mark Dantuma about to be in lap traffic. Ryan McDaniel just ahead in 8th. Richard Cragen back in 2nd, Andy in 3rd. Pieper in 4th is getting closer and closer to Wilkinson. Now just 1.7 seconds back. This is really one of the first times tonight we've seen one of the Gen 6 cars mount an attack on the trucks. Most of the night, it has been the trucks on the attack. And Larry Waits is back in. He got a penalty coming off pit road. He had picked up a black flag. He's on his way in to serve it. You know the guys in the trucks are gonna have to make one more stop. Boy, it's gonna play out very interestingly here. Tyler Ott now battling with Clay Kirchenbauer. Ott now back up into 5th. Clay Kirchenbauer in 6th. Indy back in 7th. Austin Ruskov slipping back to 8th. Ryan McDaniel in 9th. Seven vehicles left on the lead lap. But all of that could change dramatically the moment Mark Dantuma comes to pit road. The real question is Dantuma saving anything? For that matter, are any of the trucks saving fuel? Richard Cragen was the last of the trucks to come to pit road. Currently sitting in 2nd, but he is also pretty much, since that last stop, has been in the draft quite a bit, has not been out front by himself. Andy Wilkinson is in. And I just don't know if Cragen could have saved enough fuel here. And this difference in the fuel windows is bringing the Cup cars back toward the front. Pieper now just 1.8 seconds behind Cragen in closing. Andy Wilkinson took 4 tires and fuel. He is on his way back out. The question is, what will the leaders do here? And Larry Waits on fresh tires just blasted by Dantuma. The fall off here on the tires is huge. Mark's fastest lap, 39.36. Last time by, 41.91. And here he comes. The leader is on pit road. Richard Cragen to the lead. Continuing to bring the Cup cars forward. Patrick Pieper now in 2nd. Tyler Ott in 3rd. Clay Kirchenbauer in 4th. Indy now up into 6th. And Ryan up into 9th. Make that 8th as he goes by Ruskov. And Cragen is in. Pieper takes the lead. Clay Kirchenbauer has also come in. So some of the Cup cars cannot make it. Now, can Patrick Pieper or Tyler Ott, can either of those Cup cars make it on fuel from here? Mark Dantuma was a fuel-only stop. Looks like Cragen took 2 tires versus Andy taking 4. Andy likely to be the fastest truck on track. Nine laps to go, and we have no clue how this one is gonna turn out. The top 3 Cup cars right now could run out of fuel. Andy Wilkinson has just moved up into 5th past Cragen and sets his sights on Mark Dantuma. Well, we gotta hand it to Colby Whipple tonight, man. He has set up quite the race. I do believe next week we are short track racing at Iowa. Will it be the Cup cars versus truck or Cup versus ARCA? We don't know, but man, whatever it is, it's going to be exciting. It actually would be kind of cool to see all the different cars competing against the Gen 6 on all these different tracks. Ryan McDaniel now up into 7th. The only driver we know, or we're pretty certain, can go the distance on fuel. But this top 3 of Patrick Pieper, Tyler Ott, Andy Kirchenbauer, all 3 drivers are questionable. They came in at the same time as Clay Kirchenbauer on lap 48. Clay has made a final stop. And as for the truck battle, right now, Mark Dantuma has reclaimed 3rd place, but Andy Wilkinson on 4 fresh tires, just over 2 seconds behind. He is closing. Patrick Pieper gets the 5 to go. Can he make it 5 laps on fuel? He is definitely not out of the throttle coming through the turn, riding along with Pieper. Driving his usual line. He is not trying to conserve anything at the moment. He must be fairly confident he can go the distance on fuel. Andy Wilkinson, 1.2 seconds back. He is closing the gap on Dantuma. Mark Dantuma currently holds 3rd. He's 18 seconds behind Tyler Ott and even further behind Patrick Pieper. But again, the fuel question is out there. And man, is it going to be close. William Mann Jr., after his earlier incident, officially out of the race. Tyler Ott in 2nd is about 7 seconds back. Dantuma closing quickly, but likely not going to be quickly enough. Popsicle sticks in the air. 2 laps to go for Patrick Pieper. Does he have the fuel to go the distance? Man, it's going to be close. I bet some of these Cup guys run out of fuel at the line. And Mark Dantuma has a miracle now of Andy Wilkinson. That tire strategy on the final stop for Andy really paid off. And here we go. The white flag flies. One more time around for Patrick Pieper. He just has to make it on fuel. Tyler on about 6.6 seconds back. Mark Dantuma and Andy Wilkinson now nose to tail. And I think Pieper can coast it in from here. Out of turn 4, Brian Hewitt may be out of fuel, but Patrick Pieper will get it done. He'll win at Michigan. Tyler on, holds on, comes home in second. And I think Dantuma may hold him off to finish in third. One more lap, Andy might have had him. Let's talk to our top 3, starting with Dantuma. Mark, if you only had a couple more laps of fuel there.
Yeah, just these trucks are just, they don't save very well, so it kind of hurt.
Especially when you're driving a Ford.
Well, the Chevys weren't doing any better anyways, so I enjoyed the Ford horsepower. That was the big thing.
What horsepower? That hamster must have been running fast tonight, but man, it was a great race. It was definitely interesting. Early in the run, the Cup cars were faster. Mid-run, the trucks were faster, and then it just came down to the late part of the run, who conserved the best, which for most of this race was you.
Yeah, as far as trucks go, I think I had the best mileage. I was just kind of easy on the throttle, but just not enough to get to the front there. Those Gen 6 cars at the start of the runs, they just beat you down the straightaway so bad, but we could run through the corners with them, and then their tires would fall off, which kind of helped us in that middle part of the runs. But just need another gallon and a half of fuel, I would have been in good shape.
Well, still a heck of a run and quite a showing tonight. Congratulations, Mark.
Thank you, Doug.
Tyler Ott coming home in second. Tyler, how many more laps? You were gaining some ground in the final laps of that race on Pieper, but how many more laps did you need to get to him?
A lot. My tires were going fast.
Well, I noticed, I kind of suspected you were both conserving a little bit. We saw Ryan sitting in, we saw Patrick sitting in Ryan's draft for a few laps, and guys looked like they were doing some stuff to make sure they had the fuel to make it to the end.
Yeah, I was good on fuel. I pushed that whole run. I just ran out of tire. I saved too much tire that second run and just got way far behind.
It was still quite an interesting race and a lot of back and forth between you guys and the trucks, but man, what a showing and what a finish, buddy. Great job.
Thank you.
And finally, our winner, Patrick Pieper. All right, Patrick, how much fuel did you have left when you crossed the start-finish line?
I think about 0.3 laps. 0.2 lap.
Enough to get to the backstretch so everybody could hit you.
Yeah, no, just so I could do some donuts back there, and just so that Ryan could come and T-bone the crap out of me.
Well, I did notice you in the final 10 laps, you really didn't push the issue too much with Ryan until about
No.
5 to go, using him to conserve a little bit of fuel there.
Yeah, I was using him to conserve fuel and get a bit of a draft to pull a little bit up on Tyler because I saw Tyler was behind me. I didn't know what Tyler's fuel strategy was, and I knew that I was cutting it close. I knew I was going to be really close. I just didn't know I was going to be that close. But yeah, having Ryan and a couple of the trucks there at the end definitely helped catch a little bit of a draft to be able to get a better margin there. But that was a fun race there early on. It's really fun having the trucks up in the mix. Wasn't really expecting that.
It was definitely a bit different and unexpected, but man, it was a lot of great back and forth between the Cup cars and the trucks. And we're definitely looking forward to seeing what comes next. But man, awesome win tonight.
All right, thanks a lot, Doug.
Patrick Pieper gets the win, but folks, if you missed earlier, we did mention tomorrow shorts will return on YouTube, plus this race will be in 4K on YouTube later tonight, so you'll want to check that out. And tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern, more racing to come. Home Motorsports takes to the track. Definitely in for a wild night there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope y'all had as much fun as we did. Have a great night, y'all.